time, Mrs. Carmine is going to introduce our next guest.
Thank you, Dr. Soder. This evening we have Michael Lillis with RBC Capital Markets, as well as Lavinia Simjiska, I hope I pronounced that properly, with Fox Rothschild, to present. There's an item on the agenda, 13.5. It's a general obligation bond refunding of the series of 2002 bonds.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Excuse me. What I'm going to talk to you tonight about is potential refinancing of the almost all of the 2002 bonds, and to do so, I'm going to talk to you about the board considering adopting what we call a parameters resolution. It's something actually that the board adopted last year when we refinanced the 2006 bonds. So it's a very similar process, and we hope it'll provide very excellent results for you. So with that, I'm going to run through this handout. Obviously, you have it on your laptop, and we also have it on the book. This is the first of two interest rate history graphs I wanted to show you. Just real quickly, this is charting a 5-year tax-exempt interest rate. The reason I'm choosing a 5-year interest rate is that what we call the average life of the 2002 bonds is about 5 years. So the point I want you to get from this is that, and by the way, this chart goes back 20 years. And you can see 20 years ago rates were very high, 5-year rates were, and you can see they've just dropped since that time. And right now, the 5-year rate is about 0.79%, or almost 0.81%, and it's about 0.15 of a percent off the lowest point, which was in February since '92, and actually it's the lowest point for about 45 years. So now is a very opportune time to consider refinancing some bonds. The next page. That's more of a micro view of the graph you just saw. This graph is, again, this 5-year rate from January of this year, and I thought it might be interesting for you to see that rates started dropping after the first of the year, and then about mid-February, right after it hit its low point, rates kind of jumped up rather dramatically until about middle of March, and then they've been mostly on a decline since that point in time. Right now, we saw the rates approximately 0.81%. This is just a summary of the district's outstanding debt. You have 6 issues outstanding, about $113 million in total debt. And you can see I've highlighted in yellow the 2002 bonds, which is one we're going to ask the board to consider refinancing tonight. You see that second column from the right, call provision. That's particularly important because of the date. It's almost upon us, August 15th of 2012. I can tell you that the closer you get to actually, if you were to refinance any bond issue on the call date, provided interest rates were very cooperative, that's the most cost-effective time to refinance a bond issue. You can see we're going to be at the call date in a couple of months from now. This is a picture of the district's outstanding debt service. You can see I've highlighted the debt service we're proposing to consider refunding. The last column, the aggregate net debt service, is the total of all of the district's debt service fiscal year by fiscal year. And it's pretty level. It runs between $8.2 million and $8.4 million. These are what we call the debt service or amortization schedule for the 2002 bonds that we're proposing you consider refinancing. You can see the second column from the left is the principal maturities, which occur every August 15th. From this August 15th all the way till August 15th, 2021. You can see as of this date, there's $12.5 million outstanding. You can also, just to the right of that principal column, it says coupon. Those are the interest rates on all those various maturities. I can tell you that when you blend all those interest rates together, you get an average rate that's greater than 5%. Right now we're talking about refinancing these based at a little under 2%. So it's a 3% difference. So that's pretty dramatic. Now this is very similar to the schedule you just saw, except this is a picture of the debt service we're proposing to refund. It's not all of the debt service. We left out the August 15th of this year maturity because it doesn't make sense to refinance bonds on the day they're due, so there's no savings there. And I can tell you that all the maturities of principal that we saw before are the same as here after August of this year, except for the 2013 maturity. There's $770,000 there. That's not the entire maturity. What we're proposing to not refinance is this August 15th maturity of $440,000. So you may ask, well, why would you not want to refinance that? And the answer is that to leave those bonds unrefunded, we can keep the bond issue at $10 million. Now, for those of you who've been through bond refinancing in the past, you may recall that you get the best interest rates if you issue bonds, if you don't issue any more than $10 million worth of bonds in a calendar year. So if you were actually to refinance, add that principal amount to what you're going to refinance, the savings would be less than if you just refinanced $10 million. Now, so based on current interest rates, I wanted to show you what the approximate savings are right now. You can see that I've highlighted two sections of this schedule. On the top, the vertical highlighting, entitled savings, that's the estimated savings per year. It's fairly level. The goal is to try and get the savings as level as possible each year, but because of the debt service we're refinancing is not totally level, you can't perfectly achieve that. You can see the savings are roughly about 140, ranges between 138, or actually the lowest point is 102,000 in 2019 and 20. And then the next highest level is in 2013, 138,000. And the rest of the years, it's about 150,000 and change. You can see when you add that all up, you get 1,228,000, which is a fair amount of savings. Again, for those of you who were on the board last year, when we refinanced the 2006 bonds, the savings were just under 400,000. This is three times that amount. So this is a super opportunity here. The highlighting down below under savings summary, it's another measuring stick of savings we call present value savings. See, it's 1,319,000. That's actually the measuring stick we use to help clients like you to determine whether or not refinancing is worthwhile. What we do is we take that number and we divide it by the number of bonds you're refinancing, and we come up with a percentage. In the past, the district has used a minimum percentage of 3%. In this particular case, I'm sorry, I should have had the percent up there, but it's just under 14%. So it's like a grand slam in 1 month. Now, I mentioned earlier what the board's going to consider taking action on tonight is this parameters resolution for the $10 million partial refund of 2002 bonds. And I'll just run through these bullet points with you to hopefully give you a feel for what this is all about. It says at the top, the parameters resolution authorizes the sale of refunding bonds provided certain terms within specified parameters, such as we have to specify a maximum principal amount. In this case, we're specifying a maximum amount of $12 million, even though you're not going to issue more than $10 million. That may be a little puzzling to you, it always is. The reason we do that is that we have to be concerned that no maturity, because we have to specify maximum maturity amounts each year. We have to be careful that once you got the resolution that no actual principal amount is greater than the maximum amount each year, and we never know what that principal maturity is going to be like in advance because interest rates change and market conditions change. Those principal amounts can vary a lot. So what we do is we have large amounts in each maturity, and then we add them up to get a total amount, and that's why we have 12 million. So we have $2 million of extra room in total for all the maturities. But I can assure you, you're not going to be issuing more. You're going to be issuing $10 million worth of bonds. We also have to specify a maximum interest rate, a maximum bond discount, and as I mentioned a little while ago, a minimum present value savings. So, as I mentioned, traditionally the school district has asked for a minimum of 3%. In this case, it's not going to be a problem. So if you were to adopt this resolution tonight, what that would essentially allow us to do is to, once we get ready to go out in the market and sell bonds, and once we're ready, we can go into the market and sell bonds whenever it seems appropriate. It's basically when the market conditions are suitable. One of the things we're shooting for here is possibly to go out to the market in mid-late July, so we close on or about the call date on the bond, which I mentioned earlier is the perfect time to close on a refinancing. If you were to adopt this resolution tonight, no additional board meeting is required, which is another nice thing about this. What would happen is if we go out and sell bonds a month from now, what we do, which would be authorized by the resolution, is we would sell the bonds, and then we have to make sure that all the parameters are not, we haven't exceeded any of the parameters. And then what we do is we get on, most likely send around all the numbers to the district, to the bond council, and of course we would have them. And then we would go over the results, and if the school district, by the way, the resolution would authorize two people, the board secretary and the president or the vice president of the board, to formally accept the results of the bond sale. If they do, they would sign we call an addendum to bond purchase agreement, and the savings and the rates would be locked in, and then we would settle about a month later. So essentially what you're doing is you're allowing us the flexibility to go into the market at a timely, when it's most timely, and not have to time going to the market the same day as the board meeting. The market's not necessarily going to cooperate with your board meeting schedule. So I think it's a very helpful tool. Last exhibit I have here, that's what the maximum debt service schedule looks like. It's going to be part of the resolution. You can see in the principal column all of those individual principal maturities out of the $12 million, and the coupon just to the right where you had the stated maximum interest rate of 6%. If interest rates hit 6%, the refunding wouldn't work. So it's actually sort of meaningless, but we have to state a rate to get approval from the state. So anyhow, that's essentially it. What I want to present to all of you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have, concerns, whatever. See a question coming.
Mr. Willis, I'm looking at page 3, the aggregate debt summary.
Yes.
There's a call provision next May.
Yes.
And then each May for a few years after that. Is it possible to hold these for all indefinitely?
Unfortunately, the earliest we can refinance this bond issues or settle on the refinancing is 90 days before the call date. But this particular bond issue used up, you're allowed one refunding for refinancing before the call date. This bond issue has already used that one advance refunding. So we have to wait till 9 days before the call date. So that would be mid-February, February 15th, which would mean that...
You're talking about the one that's 5/15/2013?
Yes, I'm sorry, yeah. We're talking about the series of 2005 bonds, I'm sorry, with the call date of May 15, 2013. So if interest rates were conducive to refinance this particular bond issue, you could refinance, you could actually take action or sell bonds mid-January, sell a month later in February. So we'll be keeping an eye on this.
What about the next two? 2016,
2016, 2018, and 2006 notes, the 2008 bonds, and the 2009 bonds. They're all, in fact, you can see there's the column third from the right. It says eligible for advance refunding. So you'll see that those three issues are all eligible to refinance before the call date. Unfortunately, it isn't feasible financially right now to do so. The reason is you're so far from the call date that just not going into a lot of details, which I could, just as financially feasible. You generally have to get within a year or two of the call date these days to make it work. Ideally, if you finance on the call, yeah.
My question was prompted by the 0.65%.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, I mean, even what's out there, you could make out. But
Yeah.
refer to your bond rate.
Thanks for asking, because I forgot to mention it. I did want to mention that. That was the next thing we would be keeping our eye on that after we're successful refinancing this budget. I think we would be. Any other questions?
I just have a quick one for you or Mr. Pomeroy. So we have the savings, and where do we book that savings? Is that in operations or more in the capital?
It will actually be in our debt service, because if you look at the one schedule, you can see what the annual savings will be that add up to that. So what page that's on. That would be-
Page 8.
Thank you. So annually moving forward, those are the savings that we will record when we build the budgets.
Okay.
So it will balance to this new debt service level.
But I think it's safe to say, I mean, you said it's a funding. If we don't spend it in debt service, it's available also.
I just want to say this has been a lot of work for Jackie and her group, and Michael, thank you for your group. Also, could you explain to the board what our rating is as a school? I think it would be appropriate to announce that at this time.
Yeah, that reminds me. The school district just got its bond rating confirmed this Friday. It's a AA. That's the AA2, excuse me. That's the third highest rating you can get, and you're in the top 5 or 6% of school districts with that high rating. It's a very commendable rating. The higher the rating you have, the lower the interest rate. So, yeah, thank you for reminding us.
Thank you.
In fact, that's something, Mr. Prince. Did I email you that?
You did.
Report?
You did.
Jackie can email you that report if you like. Not to give you more work to do, Jackie.
No, I would have shared it with the board anyway. It was a rating from Moody's, and we received it.
It'd be interesting for you to read it, just to see how it's a summary of the analysis of district's credit.
You said only 5% of the school districts have a rating that high?
Roughly.
Of course, we would love a AAA, but
And we did try to...
we asked.
We did try to gently twist the arm.
And am I not correct that the way we get AAA is we lower our debt?
Yeah.
We lower our debt and we have more reserves. That's how you get AAA.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
With that, I hand the mic over to Lena. And the Vice Branch Officer is working with St. Family.
That's right. That's right. Good evening. My name is Amanda Sinjuska, and I'm with Mr. Michael just said, I'm with the Fox Hotel National Bond Council. And I just want to go through the main points of the resolution that you have in front of you with respect to the 2012 bonds. So the resolution approves the issuance of the bonds upon certain parameters, as you just heard. And the 2012 bonds will be issued for the financing of the current refunding of a portion of the school district's outstanding 2002 bonds. And more specifically, the resolution approves the issuance of the 2012 bonds in the amount of up to $12 million, as you just heard. It authorizes the filing of all the relevant documents with the Department of Community and Economic Development. It authorizes the proper officers to execute all the necessary documents. And it sets forth the form of the bond at the very end. The paying agent for the 2012 bonds will be Fulton Bank National Association, and the purchaser for the 2012 bonds selected through the private negotiation sale is, of course, RBC Capital Markets. So that's everything in a nutshell, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Lastly, we wanted to give the board just a brief summary of our work this year. During the May and June committee of the whole meetings, we took time to highlight the work on school and district goals, and we began the year by sharing these goals with our faculty and staff back in August. We provided some opportunities for our board to see our work in action during program visits this winter, and as mentioned, we summarized 3 of the goals in May and the 3 remaining goals earlier this month. For the summer, our teachers are involved in specific curriculum projects and professional development at different times this summer. As well, we have 503 students who are participating in enrichment classes at the elementary, middle, and high school level. We have summer reading programs for our students, and in early July, we will begin our extended year program for those qualified students. Our administrators participated in 4 days of professional development last week, and while we are still waiting for our preliminary testing data, we did spend time beginning to develop our goals for next year. We prepared our staffing summary and began our new technology program. I would like to thank our board members for your service throughout this year of transition, and on behalf of the administrative team, please thank you for your confidence in us and your support throughout the 2011-2012 school year. We have just a brief video to share with you tonight that summarizes some of our work. This is the video that we prepared for our teachers, and we showed this to them on their last day of work before their summer began. And for those of you who missed the May or the June town meeting, this will give you just a shortened version of our instructional goals as well as some highlights from the year.
before we move on, we'd like to, as a board, like to thank Dr. Soder. This is your, I guess, your last school board meeting that you're acting superintendent. You've done a lot of work for our school, and we appreciate what you have done. We're looking forward to going to the next level with Dr. Krishnan coming in here shortly. But on behalf of the board, we'd really like to thank you for all you've done and kept us together during these trying times for our school district. So thank you very much on behalf of the school district. So thank you.
Public comment, information, proposals, and statements by individuals or delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Speakers are to indicate your name, council residence, and the item on the agenda received. Your comments are addressed. Speakers will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Item 6, board committee reports. 6-1, committee of the whole. The meeting of the committee of the whole was held on Monday, June 11, 2012, at 6 p.m. in the administration board room. Following items met, curriculum instruction, and Dr. Sutter had given an update on the district goals. 6-2, governance grounds, Mr. Hughes.
Yes, Mr. President, on this June 4th, we did meet for a Building and Grounds Committee meeting. Our agenda included a presentation by the Ojrsd Youth Athletic Association with a generous offer to build softball dugouts for our middle school. That topic will be tabled until the next meeting as we needed some more information. We had discussion around future meeting dates, and it was a decision of the committee to roll our meeting into the CAL structure when possible. We'll continue to have pull-out meetings as we need to, and that'll be a topic as we progress further along in East Coventry, East Vincent building projects. We'll again have to have pull-out meetings, but for now, any topics, if they fit inside the CAL structure, we'll have the meetings there. We received project updates for Chambers and Associates. There is an agenda item tonight, 1315, for a quote to complete high school roof work that will prepare us for an eventual roof warranty, which was previously approved. We had a brief update on the East Coventry, East Vincent projects. We're currently in schematic design as well as stakeholder interviews, and we should have some more information for that in August and September. And then another item on the agenda for tonight is 1316, which is a professional services agreement for water monitoring. Yes. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Item 6-3, Chester County Engineer, Mrs. Marcus.
We will be meeting this Wednesday, so I do not have a report at this time, but the meeting will be taking place Wednesday at 8 p.m. at the Boot Road Complex in Downingtown.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus. 6-4, curriculum instruction, Mrs. Marcus.
And I have no report at this time.
6-5, extracurricular and interscholastic activities, Mr. Stone.
No report at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. 6-6, Finance Committee, Mr. Freeze.
No report at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Freeze. Item 6-7, Legislative Policy Committee, Mr. Wilcox.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was a committee meeting on April 2nd, and minutes attached, and some recommendations were made for minutes and policies later on in this week. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Item 6-8, Personnel Committee, Mr. Freeze.
No report at this time.
6-9, Pupil Services, Mrs. Marcus.
No report at this time as well.
6-10, Technology Committee.
No report, Mr. President.
And Transportation Committee, Mr. Stone.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Item 7, recommended routine matters. Item 7-1, motion to approve consent items 7-2 through 7-12.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Freeze, second by Mr. Wilcox. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 8, approve of routine matters. Item 8.1, motion to approve consent items 8.2 through 8.5.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion?
I have a question, Mr. President. Sorry. On the approval of the meeting minutes from last month, Mr. Wolf, you abstained from that one vote, and you had completed the form. But in the form, it was completed the reason for you not abstaining. And it had a question mark of behind the reason. Can you clarify to me what that is? And I just need clarification because it had a question mark, and I didn't know what that meant.
About anybody's confidentiality, right? I wasn't sure if that person was related because we had not been given much time before we were told who the person was that we were going to hire and when we hired them. So I had to abstain, and then in the meantime, I had time to do research to discover that person was not a relative, but I had to abstain because at that time I wasn't sure.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, short communications. Dr. Soder.
We have one communication that I've been asked to read this evening that the board received from Secretary Ronald Thomas. Dear Dr. Soder, the Board of Directors and the administrative staff of the Ojrsd School District are to be congratulated for the accomplishments shown by the audit of your operations for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2008, 2007, 2006, and 2005, recently issued by the Department of Auditor General. The Pennsylvania Department of Education would like to inform you that the audit report of Ojrsd School District did not contain any findings or observations for these years in accordance with procedures established in Management Directive number 325.1. It is a pleasure to commend you and your staff for this achievement. I would hope that this recommendation becomes part of the official minutes of your next meeting with the board. Again, congratulations. Sincerely, Ronald J. Thomas.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Kleinfelter, I also have a board communication. There is a memorandum to the Board of School Directors from Dr. Marcia Herta, Acting Pupil Services Director, and the subject is thank you. I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve in the position of Acting Pupil Services Director for the 2011-12 school year. I've enjoyed my time here and certainly hope that I was able to provide the necessary support to maintain the effective delivery of pupil services. Dr. Soder, Mrs. Crumrine, and Mrs. Hefner have certainly exhibited strong leadership and a commitment to maintaining a high level of educational services during this year of transition. It has been a pleasure working with such highly qualified individuals. Without a doubt, you have much to be proud of here in the Ojrsd School District. Your commitment to quality education is clearly evident. I wish the district great success in the future. Sincerely, Dr. Marcia Herter. I have no further communications.
Item 10, board discussion. I have a statement here I'd like to read if you give an update on Dr. Mark Barr's pursuit. Dear Ojrsd School District community, the Ojrsd School Board is committed to keeping our stakeholders up to date on important matters involving our school district. The school board has worked with our council, the Land McElwain law firm, to provide our stakeholders with an update on the status of the lawsuit filed by Dr. Mark Barr against the Ojrsd School District. This lawsuit has been going for almost 3 years. Defendants in the suit include the Ojrsd School District, the Ojrsd School Board of Directors, and 5 former board members as individual named defendants. While Dr. Forrest's initial complaint contained 12 separate counts, 5 of those original counts have been preliminarily dismissed. During this discovery process, which is a period of time where the prospective parties are able to inquire and obtain information from the other side, approximately 15 depositions were taken, all but one of which were requested by Dr. Forrest's counsel. Furthermore, the school district has provided thousands of documents in the response to Dr. Forrest's document production request. The current Ojrsd School Board would like to thank our administration for their cooperation and the significant time and attention they have dedicated to the document production request. Following this lengthy discovery period, both sides have filed motions for summary judgment, which is an opportunity for the court to apply the governing law to the known fact of potential roles on some of the remaining counts prior to trial. The Lane law firm remains confident in the school district's defense to Dr. Forrest's lawsuit, for which the trial was originally scheduled to commence in mid-July. However, last week the school district received notification from the court that the trial has been postponed until mid-November 2012. The current school board would prefer no additional delay in resolving this matter, but we are very much appreciative of the efforts and the times that our administration has spent and will continue to spend defending our school district. Respectively, J. Roberts School District Board of Directors.
Mr. Kleinfeld, I just have one question. Are we able to post that communication on our website?
Yes.
Okay.
Item 11, old business. There's none. Item 12, new business. Approval or application of personnel matters. Item 12.1, motion to approve consent items 12.2 through 12.19.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mr. Hughes. Any discussion?
I have some discussion with regards to 1219, approval to amend total annual positions for the 2012-13 school year. Just looking at the projected elementary instructional staffing that we have recommended from the administration, I just want to draw attention to page 8, which is talking about class size maximums with regard to board policy. And even though we're under board policy in all the areas specified on page 8, I just want the board to take a good look at French Creek, grade 5, 27, East Vincent, grade 5, grade 4, 26.7, and West Vincent, grade 5 and 6 at 26 and 25. I'm not making a suggestion that we consider changing board policy, but I would like to put ourselves into the position of parents and ask yourself, while we're approving staffing, if you would be comfortable with those numbers in your child's classroom. Just the point. I mean, I know we have the higher numbers in 4, 5, and 6, so we can keep them lower in K through 3. But I'm nervous about, especially the 27s.
Did you want to pull that out, do a separate motion?
Well, I don't know if this is the motion. Is this the motion that we approve it? Because this is the motion for the...
There'll be one more.
Well, we had already approved the head count back in April and May. I guess.
Right.
So this would be additional, so this is what we're planning on, based on what we know now. Now, obviously, Dr. Soder and Mrs. Crum continue to watch the numbers as we move out through the summer. We currently don't have a meeting scheduled, I believe, until August 13th, but I think we have to kind of know.
And if I could just add, we are watching them weekly, and the minute we hit the maximum, we will let you know. If we need to schedule a meeting, we'll recommend that you do that. We would not want to wait until the end of August if we received enrollment.
I guess I'm asking them to separate it because I don't think I would feel comfortable voting for it in the consent piece personally.
Mrs. Farkas, to clarify, are you asking that the board and the administration revisit their class size maximums?
No.
Or you're asking that if these go over, that we add the appropriate staff?
No, I'm kind of asking that we don't have to change policy, but especially for that French Creek grade 5, 27, that we make an exception. I mean, if I have a fifth grader at North Coventry and they have 21 kids in the class, and I can't. What?
The 27 at French Creek's with 4 teachers.
Yeah. I mean, that fourth, fifth combo grade-wise overall in our district is high.
Huge.
I mean, so it's going to be impacting us as we go forward anyway. Problem is that the grades that are following it are smaller, so there has to be that shuffle. But I just put myself in a parent's position in that French Creek fifth grade, knowing that I have a fifth grader at North Coventry who's 21 and 27. I don't see the equity in that, so I'm bringing it to your attention. That's my like biggest concern. The other ones are at 26. I know it's just one more student, but I think if we're going to fight for something, then we should be fighting for more teachers in our classrooms.
So I think the question is, you're suggesting we pull that out. I think we should separate that as a separate motion, and then we'll give a discussion around that motion when it spins off. Right?
So you'll be voting on 12.1 through 12.18, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And Mr. Time Hunter, I'd also like to call separation of votes. I'd like to separate separate votes on item 12.8 and 12.9. Thank you.
You need a second.
I don't think so.
We don't need a second.
Separate.
Let's make sure Lucas is clear.
So, in items 12, don't have to read all, we're just going to go through, we're going to remove items 12.8, 12.9, and 12.19.
Correct. And then you'll be voting on those separately, one at a time.
Correct. So I need another motion on that.
Which motion you calling?
Item 12, review motion on item 12. We've removed items 12.8, 12.9, and 12.19 from the original motion.
So a motion to separate?
No, you don't need a motion to separate.
I know, I was just clarifying what he was asking for.
No, you're saying a motion to vote on all the consent items except for 12.8, 12.9.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Kleinfelder, I move to approve the remaining motions for item 12.
I second.
All right, motion Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. Wolf. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, I'm going to go to item 12.5, retirement resolution. This is a resolution for Rebecca W. Sparks, whereas Rebecca W. Sparks, as an employee of the Ojrsd School District for the past 38 years, has made significant contributions to the students and the district, and whereas Ms. Sparks has given unselfishly of her time, talents, and energies in serving the youth of our community by performing her job to the best of her ability, and whereas Ms. Sparks has made a great impact upon the Ojrsd School District now and in the future, and whereas Ms. Sparks' retirement is richly deserved and recognizes as one of high honor and distinction. Therefore, be it resolved that the L.J. Roberts Board of School Directors, the administration, and fellow employees of the L.J. Roberts School District express our deep appreciation to Ms. Sparks for 38 years of loyal service and wish her good health and continued success in future endeavors. It is further resolved that the 20th day of June 2012 be officially declared Rebecca W. Sparks Day in the L.J. Roberts School District, adopted by the Board of School Directors of the L.J. Roberts School District on the 18th day of June 2012.
Now you have to give us the inside scoop.
He was a good student. He was a very good student.
Even better the second time.
Congratulations. Thank you for everything.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thanks for your hard work. Beautiful.
And yes, it is 38. I know you kind of.
You weren't at the same time?
Thank you.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Item 12.8, approval of ratification of appointment of non-certificate position.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. Vargas. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I just need to say that I feel we cannot keep creating new positions and paying out more money in salaries just because we want to. To be honest, the money tree behind the administration building has been picked bare. We don't have any more money. I shall be voting no on this item. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
7-2? No, 6-2.
6-2, I'm sorry, Mr. Conklin.
Motion passes. Item 12.9, approval ratification of substitute part-time and casual appointments.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mr. Hughes. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I shall be voting yes for this, but I just have some questions. Why are we approving two positions for substitute security officer 1 month after the fact?
Ratification.
It is ratification.
We don't put anybody on the board agenda until we have all their paperwork. So we're ratifying the position. It is a substitute as needed. Okay, so when we had the May 21st board meeting on a Monday night, we didn't know that Tuesday. They did not have all their paperwork in. They're not permitted to work before all their paperwork is into human resources. Once it is all in, they're permitted to start working. So we're ratifying. My other question is, oh, go ahead.
With all due respect, Ms. Heffernan, that's an explanation, not an excuse. You should never, ever, we always have in rare occasions, where we should avoid at all costs approving hiring after the fact. That should be done up front. Either they've got to get paperwork in faster, agendas have to be adjusted or something. But to approve a hiring long after it occurs is just not well.
My other question is, compensation according to this is effective July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2013 at $12.74 an hour. What rate are we paying these positions from May 22nd through June 30th of this year?
We would be paying them in July 1st, 2011 through June 30th, 2012 project scale rate. We made that correction.
Okay. And just to play the devil's advocate, out of curiosity, what would happen, not this specific one, but what would happen if the board doesn't approve a retroactive position when the employees have already been paid? Do we go to the employee and ask for the money back? I mean, there's always the possibility that somebody's been working for a month or so, gets paid, and then it's not approved at the later board meeting. What is our policy on that?
Well, you have to pay them, but you're violating the law.
Legally, under 508, only you, the 9 members, can enter into a contract with this individual. So there's an argument to be made, albeit a unique one, that you never officially contracted with this individual. You would certainly argue some sort of apparent authority, but there would be an argument to be made that money could come back. But it would be a light picture.
But
Can I also add just one comment?
Please do that.
The items on this one are for our part-time and casual and substitute workers.
Right.
They're not really not falling under any employment contract. And the board approves those rates of pay and positions at the beginning of the year, so that when we need a substitute, we are having them come in, fill out the paperwork, clearances, so that they can step in and do the work, and then they're ratified on the next agenda. The actual position and the rate of pay have already been approved.
But we haven't approved these specific people.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So there is the possibility, as you say, that if the board would reject or would defeat that motion, we would then be in violation of the law. We pay somebody who wasn't officially employed.
Well, we would have to pay, actually, the law really states that you have to pay someone who has worked for you. And that's the
So
law.
then why do we bother to vote? If we have to pay them anyway.
You have to, under 508, you have to vote on all these contracts. Either on the date of hire or retroactively. Apparently, this is a retroactive ratification of this person's employment.
Correct, and that is the arrangement that the administration has had with the personnel committee chair. If that's something that the board is not comfortable with, then we can relook at that, but that is the arrangement.
And I guess the question came up tonight about ratification not being customary, that we do it that way. But it is customary that when a job or an opening or an opportunity or a need is here, we need to fill those positions. I don't think it's customary to wait an additional month to fill those obligations, directing your question. And no, it's not customary to ratify.
In response, I would say it's customary to plan.
Do we...
We don't do it for administrative
If
positions.
somebody gets hit by a bus, that's one thing. I understand that. But it isn't even about these two individuals.
No, absolutely not.
we have to plan and to know and to vote in the right order, because we have a conundrum. Obviously, we're going to pay these individuals. We've contracted with them in whatever presumptive way described to us, so they're going to have to be paid. But the school code says that we're going to approve these things first. And these can easily get out of hand with this. And we've had, in the past, screens full of people that were paid afterwards, that were approved after they were hired. So what my concern is principle and process, not the fact that we have to go back 2 weeks to pay someone. It's the same thing with concern about those other positions. We've got to look at the principle and the process. The administrative overhead here may or may not be higher than it should be. We've got to look at each employee's or each new hire's benefit that they're going to bring to the district.
So let's say we have an opening for a teacher position. We must wait a whole additional month before we can hire them to start teaching our children?
Just call a special meeting.
You can do that, but the point is that this shouldn't become a routine matter. Do something.
Do you think that it's been held as a routine in the past year? Or do you think it's an exception?
I don't know. Does it happen at every board meeting?
It seems to me that it's more of an exception, and it's that hit by a bus scenario or went out on leave 3 weeks early scenario that they come up as ratifications. I think that in most cases, the majority of cases, we're approving before we hire. I agree with you. I don't want it to become practice. I'm glad that you said what you said, but I don't think we've abused it
well, I don't either.
without proper planning.
No, I don't think it's being abused.
But
All I'm saying is that it's the kind of thing we should be cognizant of and try to avoid it.
Absolutely.
perhaps we can add it to a discussion on the Cal meeting, because we have had, at least I was personnel chair last year, and we added the ability for administration to ratify our planned budget positions. If there's something that's posted and filled, they can ratify it at the next meeting, so they can post and actually get the position moved into kind of operations. So that's been the norm since at least I was personnel chair, and I don't remember exactly what the date was. We've changed that, but if we want to have a better discussion around that at a Cal meeting, this is probably not the greatest opportunity. We've been ratifying positions on and off since I've been on this board, and since I was personnel chair, really to facilitate operations, making sure we have positions that are budgeted, because we approve those budgets. If there's anything outside of the budget or an administrative position, they would have to come to the board. They can also use the personnel chair to lead those.
Well, the exception that proves the rules, I think it's what you're getting at, is in the summertime, where we have open positions, and we don't know the names of the individuals that are going to fill them, because you're in the midst of hiring in July and August. So it's understandable, and they know that we do it in the past, and it can be routine, and this is already a bigger deal than I want to make out of it. The point is that we should use planning as best we can, and to avoid that situation, to hire someone when there's accurate.
We're voting on item 12.9. Motion was by Mr. McCall, second by Mr. Hughes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 12.19, approval to amend total annual positions for the 2012-2013 school year.
So,
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. Farkas. Any discussion?
Can I make my case a little bit clearer this time around? Okay.
Sure.
When you're looking at class size and you're thinking about, let's just use French Creek 5th grade as an example, okay? Just think about this for 1 second. You have a teacher that has 27 students, okay? They're not leveled in different subject areas. So the teacher is responsible for differentiating her education instruction towards all 27 children. With the more children in the classroom, the more different types of ways she has to differentiate, or he just has to differentiate, along with small group instruction with regards to guided reading, word study, science and social studies, and math. I mean, sometimes you need that one-on-one instruction in those areas. So even though it's our policy is 28, I'm just saying it's very, I don't want to say difficult, because it's definitely with a great teacher, they can do it. But it's more challenging, and some children may be that child that might not be served as adequately as it possibly can be.
So,
Mrs. Parker, you seem to be making the case for homogeneous groupings.
We don't have to get into that tonight.
so thanks for clarifying.
Okay.
I'm going to respond as an individual board member.
Okay.
1 vote of 9.
Okay.
I too believe that class size is an important component of the quality education. We have a projected class size maximums, recommendation for class size maximums that are brought to us by the administration that fit within board policy. As an individual board member, if there is a particular case to be made, I would be receptive. But to me, it would be the curriculum committee, the personnel committee would be working with our administration to come up with a plan, and not at a board meeting where we're necessarily debating this. But as a voting board member, I would be in favor of making a case for something smaller in individual cases, assuming it fits in with the overall budget, we can get it done in what we approved.
But if we set the limit as a board,
As
they're
a
working
guiding
to
guiding principle
They're-
and a rule of thumb.
But I think that they're looking at meeting those.
I'd be a receptive board member to somebody making the case, saying the quality of our education erodes because these class sizes are high. There's a bubble in this particular class, this particular year, based on the math that we have. We could improve this. That's one voting member's view. I think that's what you're asking for, right?
I'm asking for it, but I also believe the recommendation is to stick to what we approved as class size policy guidelines. So it's kind of like between a rock and a hard place, because financially, that's where we get into that gray area, whether it's best for our district as a whole financially in comparison to instructional ways with. So they're picking and choosing, and since we haven't gone over, I don't know if they feel confident making a case for it.
Well, the only thing I would be reluctant is, because this changes every week, we can be addressing what we think is a bubble now, that only by mid-August is not a bubble, and there's bubbles elsewhere. I think I recall that in my years on the board, as much as we try to plan something going on proactively, Mr. McCough, there's always issues in August that need to be addressed that come up that we don't anticipate.
Currently there's 3 hotspots. There are 2 more that are on the verge. So, if you address the 3 tonight, then you're still be potentially on the hook for 2 more, depending on what. So, I have to see the evidence. And, are you going to make a motion, or you just ask us to consider?
Be aware that there are feelings and emotions about classes that aren't focused. It could be similar. Are you prepared, for example, to go down to a class max of 19?
Say that again? Am I prepared for what?
If there is a concern in the community, would you be prepared to go down to a class size of 19?
No, and that's the gray area that I'm nervous about, because it's not policy. But I still think that we have to discuss this. I still think that this is important.
It's an important discussion, but
it's at a CAL meeting. I don't think it's at the...
But I brought it up at the CAL meeting, and no one said anything but me, and then we're going to go ahead and approve this tonight, and then everybody's going to say, well, you had time to talk about it in June, and I'm going to say, well, I talked about it, and all I can do is vote against it. So I don't have any power to do anything about it after tonight.
What is the administration's plan throughout the summer? Now that you've heard this concern, what would you guys recommend do in your leadership of the district?
We would continue to monitor those numbers, and if we exceed class size policy, we would be coming back to make an additional recommendation. But as Mrs. Parker stated, for we're not going to make that recommendation based on these numbers for our June meeting.
And that's just financial.
And part of that,
The June meeting, though. June meeting.
Okay.
part of that needs to take into account our staffing budget. It needs to take into account our title and non-title schools. And it needs to take into account that we have that class size policy from grade 4 through 12. So I recognize your concern with this. I just want to make sure our board is aware that that's the same class size for beyond our elementary grades.
Dr. Sutter didn't add to your list number of rooms available in the building.
We're good in our
Fine.
high
We're actually fine.
What?
You can call
When
it
we
curriculum.
when we will be losing students to charters or summer children?
Well, any student who has withdrawn to date is part of that. That's in the numbers as part of what we do weekly. So we do have withdrawals throughout the summer. If students make a choice later in the summer to attend a different school, that withdrawal comes out at that time.
Is there a cutoff? Is there a cutoff for that?
No.
So in other words, if a student wishes to go to a different venue on October 1st, that's
We think that's sufficient.
Okay, can I ask one more question? Okay, so if I, as a board member, and I'm looking at the policy then, and I would like to have discussion over the policy, would that be something that would be in a legislative and policy committee?
Yes, we can.
So even though I'm not on that committee, can I ask for a meeting?
No, you can't have it. No, of course you can. But it's an important subject that isn't just the 9 of us sitting around trying to make a decision. We have to be informed by the educational issues, current thought on what the class size policy should be, what the financial ramifications are going to be, including, whether or not we're going to have enough classrooms if we drop this, and also community concerns. You talked about equity, and we're really comparing apples to oranges in that comment. But if we have a class that has 18.7 versus 19.3, that's not equitable. Are we going to fight over that half?
No, but
I'm not talking about among ourselves, please.
I understand you want follow-up with administration and background information regarding it, and I agree with you on that, and I think that that's an important discussion that we need to have, because when you're thinking about unleveled classes in 4 through 6 and grouping them in 6 through 12, where there are leveled classes and they're working in different specialty areas, subject areas, I think that that's where the discussion lies. So if we can maybe schedule that, maybe this won't occur again.
It's going to work. You can change class size to 12. Someday someone's going to come in and make it 14. So it will go on. It's one of the touchy things that we do at the end of the year and the beginning of the next. We'll try to handle that. We'll do it right and not fail these children. But I want to caution you, remember this class size policy is only for the opening day of school. And apropos my comment about when might a child leave, someone can buy a house, or a couple of people can buy a house, or there can be some malfeasance displayed at a charter school when we come back. Or, the closings of parishes, maybe there's some schools that are parochial schools that are fast. Of course, I'm taking all those examples out. The point is that by the 1st of October, this doesn't have much meaning.
I understand.
I have one more question. It's proposed, your subject here, it's proposed the thank you, Dr. Kleinfelder, technical difficulties here. So last year, looking at French Creek, for example, the 5th grade, they had 72 children with the enrollment. I'm sorry, it's going from 81 to 92. I apologize, the 5th grade class. But if there's 4 teachers, 92 divided by 4 is 23, not 27.
Mrs. Crumline used the current enrollment
Okay.
for
Current.
that.
Thank you.
Correct.
Rate rather than the projected because
Thank you.
there was such a difference.
Right, what we do then, we project staffing, and then we monitor our actual enrollment, and we graduate the students, enroll them forward, and then we use, as we get closer to June, that we use our actual numbers, roll forward.
So it's 80?
We use our actual
Correct.
numbers and registrations
Right.
that are scheduled.
Right, registration, scheduled appointments, withdrawals, we keep a log, and they're posted in the student system, and we factor those into these numbers. We add them
But,
in there.
81 divided by 3.
yeah, that's fine, but I thought there was 4 going in fifth grade.
No, there's only 3.
I thought there was 4.
No. Says 2000, if you go to French Creek, 2012, 2013 staff, 3.0.
Mr. Freeze, there was 4 in the projections that were given to the board in April.
Right.
And then throughout the spring, we made adjustments. So, for example, this motion in front of you tonight is just what's additional that's needed from what you approved in April.
Okay.
There were adjustments, both up and down among the schools.
Really, right, not just in this one.
Yeah, so if it goes to the 92, which is the projected number,
Mm-hmm.
you would automatically move it.
And actually, if we have 3 more students, we're coming to you.
Yeah,
for,
from the
teacher.
81. From the 81.
Correct.
Yeah, but 12, 13 projections, 92, that's a big difference.
Correct. So we adjust to the actual roll forward, and then monitor registrations and withdrawals, so that we have an accurate count when we make recommendations to you that are after the beginning budget.
Mr. Furman, who's doing the 3-year retention? Who's doing this?
We are, Decision Insight is the vendor that that we work with to do our projections. And they did a presentation in
Yeah,
October.
but it's, if you look behind the curtain, it's the same thing that we're doing annually, the 3-year revolving retention law.
Yes, they're using the same methodology, absolutely.
It's been made and seconded. You seconded.
Mrs. Barton, you second the motion. So, item 1219, approval to amend total random position for 2012-2015 as presented. The motion was by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. Farkas. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Kleinfelter, may I clarify that vote, just so that I'm clear? The vote was 6-2, and there were 2 nays, Mr. Freeze and Mrs. Marcus, is that correct? Thank you.
Item 13, new business. Approval to amend policies.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. DeLuca. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 13.2, approval of dates and times for regular monthly school board meetings, committee meetings for 2012-2013 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. DeLuca. Any discussion? I just had one item a little early, but in December, looks like we had the reorganization meeting on the 3rd, and we currently don't have a regular school board meeting. I guess we could always schedule that as needed.
Can we, so for July you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the December.
Oh, sorry. A little sidebar here, but July, just off of, not to cut you off, but Mrs. Barkis's discussion before we get to December for July, should we have a placeholder for at least a roll call meeting in early August or late July to review staffing if we need it? So that would be at least have our calendars free.
I would prefer August 4th. Is that everyone? I know, it's always...
What's that?
Stuff is still happening.
I'm not making a recommendation. I'm just saying let's have a placeholder for a roll call meeting at some point between now and August 27th. That will allow ample time for them to make changes so we don't have to ratify anything.
Nothing planned.
Why don't you cancel the August 13th meeting? We're back on
I think we should work backwards from whatever Dr. Soder needs to get the positions in the building.
The teacher induction begins on August 20th, and the administrative professional development begins on the 13th. So, to be honest, we prefer hiring to be completed prior to that week.
So a roll call meeting on the 13th preceding the committee of the whole would not work?
Anything is helpful. So, anything is helpful. So if you wish to have a meeting on the 13th or that evening, then we would, we would have our
Doesn't have to be Sunday.
It seems to me to make most sense. It's already a date that is reserved and scheduled for a CAL meeting. And if it fits in with your leadership timeline, I don't know why we wouldn't just do it then, rather than pulling people in for another day in August.
Well, then we wouldn't necessarily need to.
Skip the 13th.
We wouldn't need to pencil that in. We would just go ahead and a week ahead of time.
Right. We would advertise it as a voting meeting. We would need to do that if we were going to have a voting meeting.
Good.
All right, now back to December.
Sorry.
We think we need a regular school board meeting late December before the Christmas break. I guess we could decide that later too.
So do you have a recommendation for the recommendation?
Well, to the extent we need to have a special meeting, or it would be a special meeting, we can certainly advertise it in advance, especially following the organization. If you were going to establish a regular meeting for December, I would suggest you do so now for a regular calendar. But if you need a voting meeting after reorganization, I would suggest you advertise the existing session in advance.
We need the organization first meeting.
Yes,
That has to happen.
Right. And we normally have an old business, reorg, new business.
Yeah, but that's a week after our November meeting, so it's...
Yeah, right, that's a good
Our
point.
next meeting would not be until July 28th, so...
That's a good point.
I don't
January.
Just to note, most districts don't have a late December meeting. If they have a reorg, they will try to do all of their voting at that December meeting, so we will avoid another meeting.
How does the group feel about using the 26th instead of the 12th week? November, excuse me.
We could always leave the CAL meetings in the schedule, and then you can advertise that you'll have a voting meeting that same night, too. It's up to you.
I mean, to paraphrase here, that November 12th meeting is really a placeholder, right? The November 12th meeting is really a placeholder. If you want to declare that a school board meeting.
Yeah, well, there already is one for November 22nd.
So the point I'm trying to make is that we drop that 26th and make it December 3rd meeting, and go this is
There's a lot going on with reorg, we can actually try to...
well, what is it for meeting, I think?
We got 6 months to go. Yeah.
That would be my preference, would be to have a standalone meeting later in December.
Fishing.
But at this point, I think we just, I don't have an motion to amend, so... There's no change right as of right now. So 13, do approval of dates for board meetings as presented. Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Ms. those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 13.3, approval for status quo resolution.
Do you want to discuss it?
Yes.
It was actually brought to the attention of the board for the meeting, and believed by members of the REA, that frankly there was some language inconsistency in the resolution as it relates to health care, how health care is delivered here in the district vis-a-vis some other districts. I would recommend as a result, and I concur with their interpretation of language, that this resolution be removed from this evening's agenda and revisited with different language, possibly at the August meeting. What was presented in front of you this evening was a status quo resolution to, in essence, from the board that as of July 1, the two parties, the board and the REA are entering into what was known as status quo, where you maintain the last year contract until you can negotiate and finalize the successor agreement. There's no obligation to approve this resolution.
Yeah, I was going to ask, it's a little bit like improving the law of gravity. I mean, if we do nothing, the current agreement stays in place.
Correct. It is more as a communication mechanism for you to understand, and the administration understands that there is, and to give you a perfect example, it's usually, and I hate to show a principle or two out there, you see the violations of status quo not by the board or not by, say, the administration of the central office. You see it where principals are not power to change terms and conditions of employment in their buildings, and changing the metal schedule, or changing contracts not with students. That can be viewed as a violation of status quo. So it's for really the entire stakeholder community, both the teachers and the administration of the board, to know we're going into that.
Our administrators say it's too professional. No, but so the motion is superfluous.
Absolutely. Yes.
We voted down.
We still,
You could vote it down.
would be better to have a motion to suspend.
I would remove, and let's just revisit even the need to do it. If we feel it's necessary, we can always bring it back as a modified motion. I would take it.
Yeah, wouldn't be.
Remove the postponement to an
Yeah, but I
unspecified.
don't think it has to come back.
It doesn't, so we're removing it.
There's two
But-
approvals that's been removed.
13.3.
13.3.
And just to make a general comment, I'm disappointed that either we didn't have this cleaned up before the board meeting tonight. And if we had a motion on the table that did need to be made, it's kind of a waste of discussion around something that never needed to be made in the first place. So I think we should have done some more homework preparing the agenda to get this cleaned up ahead of time.
Item 13.4, approval of a resolution supporting the school district exemption for prevailing wage act, House Bill 709.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Freeze, second by Mr. McCall. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 13.5, approval of general obligation bond series 2012 resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Freeze, second by Mr. McCall. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 13.6, approval of authorization of budget transfers, fund transfers, GASB 54, committed fund balance accounts associated with financial audit.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Freeze, second by Mrs. Vargas. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 13.7, approval of student activity clubs and organization approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Barkus, second by Mrs. DeLuca. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 13.8, approval to establish student activity accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. DeLuca. Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. DeLuca. Any discussion?
Yes, it says we were to get the backup posted by Thursday. I never received that. So I'm not sure what we're voting on.
Okay, 1 moment.
It just says backup to be posted by Thursday.
School choir.
Usually it's posted all the accounts.
It's a checking account.
Yeah, it's the middle school.
For the use of the middle school.
I'm just not sure
the
I'm always
backup
conscious
vote.
I can vote on something I haven't been able to read.
It is for the middle school
So
choral.
it's just for the one?
It's just for the one, for the middle school choral.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
just one item?
Okay, approval to
Right,
establish the
it's
fund.
just the one item. I'm sorry, we should have removed that. It was just to establish that account.
And you can just tell me the amount?
What would be?
It's not, there's no amount, it's just to establish an account for that. So I apologize, that language should have been removed.
Okay, no problem.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. 13.9, approval of district insurance programs.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. DeLuca. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 13.10, approval of conference attendances.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. DeLuca. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 1311, approval of textbooks for the 2012-2013 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. DeLuca. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 1312, acknowledge receipt and award for proposed for orange juice, drinks, and dairy products.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. DeLuca. Any discussion?
Mr. President, your role this year, tomorrow there's a free webinar to try to explain some issues surrounding the health foods programs and federal programs. It's on the PSBA website, if you have an interest in it. I don't think you can participate, I think it's listened
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. 1313, application of homebound students.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Priest, second by Mr. McCall. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 1314, approval of expulsion recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mrs. Marcus. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 1315, approval of Chambers and Associates Incorporated proposed for high school roof warranty project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hughes, second by Mr. McCall. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 1316, approval of professional services and or maintenance agreements.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCall, second by Mr. Hughes. Any discussion?
Yes, I do. Are we on 1316?
Yes.
I really need to say that we are expecting our teachers and our taxpayers to bite the bullet, yet we keep spending the taxpayers' money for services that I believe are absolutely unnecessary. To me, it's unconscionable that we are even considering extending this contract for 3 more months at $650 a day paid to one person. On July 9th, we shall have a full-time superintendent, a full-time assistant superintendent, dozens and dozens of administrators, and hundreds of staff in our district. Yet we want to hire someone at $650 a day to help us. The contract ends June 30th. There should be no extension. I shall vote no on this, and why? Because our district does not have any more money. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
6-2. Motion passes. Item 14, public comments. Information, proposed statements, and or questions from individuals or delegations pertaining to any items speakers may take. Their name, township residents, speakers, or committees, and or agreements.
I tell you people that you are all disgusting.
Excuse me, Mrs. Beckles.
I don't care.
You have a statement.
I'm writing it in. I'm talking right now because you guys don't take in consideration senior citizens because you all make $100,000 and $200,000 and we are struggling with $20,000 and $25,000 a year. And you don't consider this is 3 months of $660. That's almost $66,000. And you are not ashamed when there are so many people here that could help. And this young lady here, she is doing a heck of a good job. And no, you have to have new people. I mean, you guys don't realize the amount of money you spend foolishly all year long. And I'm sick and tired, that's why I'm speaking up. Because you guys do anything you please, so I can do anything I please. But I at least say it in front of you and not behind your back. And it's awful the way you act.
Don't forget to sign in.
You don't realize how this world is out there for the poor people. Because you fill your pocket just like the politicians. And then you look at people that speak up. But at least I have some moment. I swore to myself I wouldn't get upset no more. But with a bunch of idiots like you, I have to. Spend money like drunken trails. Serious. I'm sorry, but I had to say it.
My name is Heather McCreary. I think I know most of you guys on the board up here. I'm up here tonight to ask what we are doing to look into our high school math program. My daughter Sarah was so upset about her final grade this high school year in 9th grade that she said I was allowed to make a public example out of her. She received a 78 on her honors algebra 2 exam. Now she actually did pretty good. The average in that class was a 75, if you can believe that. She has friends, and many of you know the friends. Many of you would know the people that were the kids in her class. But grades range from that.
And in terms of issues involving FERPA-related matters, student records and the like, grades on tests, I would suggest
Okay,
that.
I'll keep it. I'll make it. Okay. I need to know what's going on with the high school math program. The grades of my daughter and her friends they're not acceptable. It's not okay for children to get A's or B's going along in the marking period and to take a final and actually get D's and C's on the final. Her class was not the only class this year that had that result. I'm happy to put together a survey and ask and bring it back to the board, but I think it's something that needs to be looked into. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
We had an interesting discussion this evening about staffing. I'd like to bring it to the attention of the board that in the past, we used to have Dr. Scalise's famous hotspot grabs with the color coded and all that. And today, we don't get to see it. And I understand that we're within the policy for staffing across the district, but as a member of the public, I can't tell if, for instance, you are running at the maximum, let's say, to make up an example, second grade in East Country, and then running at the minimum of the policy in the rest of the elementary buildings for second grade. I don't know. As a parent, I'm very interested in that, and as a taxpayer, since I'm paying for it, I'm doubly interested in it. So I would ask the board to consider making that information available to the public as opposed to the past. Thank you.
Can we post that on the website? Is this something we can post?
Sure.
Where would be a good... Oh, wait one
I was
second.
going to do that comment.
Okay.
I actually was going to talk here before Heather.
Security officer.
Because I am very much interested in that, not only for my children, but those of my friends. And I've heard who I'm not saying names.
Which topic?
What he just did.
The hotspots.
Usually, like, I heard hotspots brought up by Chris a couple, not last board meeting, the week before. She said hotspots, and my ears went, So, and then I've heard other people complaining at West Vincent that there was issues over there. I don't even get West Vincent, but I know parents are concerned because I hear it. And we probably have a lot more people here with that information to come and support what Chris was asking for tonight.
But that information was presented, in fact, I thought it was on the website.
But
It was never presented at a meeting.
It was done at the Cal meeting, wasn't it?
I've been at Cal meeting, I've been to the last board meeting. It was never
In April. In the April Cal meeting, it was presented, but we're happy to post it.
Yeah,
But
we're
it's
happy to
changed
post it on
since
the
April.
website.
I haven't
It
seen
changes
it.
every week. Sure.
I haven't seen it anywhere. And I've been to the last couple anyway. And usually this is when it comes out. Like, this is when we're discussing it because it goes from like end of May to August.
On the one question, on the board docs, when we have backup on the
Yes.
public site, is this there? Because we talked about this in the Cal meeting in June.
I have to check. It should be.
Yeah.
The-
The answer is-
But we didn't
The answer is
present it.
available, and we'll find an easier way to get it.
Yeah, it's there.
Right.
Yeah,
Usually
and what
turn it
we're
to-
discussing as a board and as a leadership team is typical this time of the year. Every year, there's a discussion about where the hotspots are and how to address it. It's not unique to this year.
I've heard it,
Yeah.
I've heard it, but I haven't seen graphic of it. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Well, in the past, Dr. Scalise has presented that at the
Yeah.
board meeting, but we've made an attempt to reduce the administrative staff
I
working this.
understand that, but you guys know where there's hotspots. We don't know.
And you should.
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
It's obvious that that information is important for community members. It is a proprietary, and I think this is just an oversight, which is easily remedied.
Michael Syracuse from Chester Springs. Just wanted to piggyback on staffing. It's obviously an important issue for a lot of parents, and I just want to bring up the point Mr. LaCroix had talked about preparing for staffing and not having it like an addendum meeting or I'm not sure what the word is, but everyone knows that staffing for teachers is hard, and just like any business, if you wait until the last minute, it's going to be very difficult to get a qualified person to represent students or teach a student. So being that you have a policy, and it's easy to stick to a policy when you have it, but it's the one-offs that make it difficult. So if we have a lot of different classrooms that are close to that 28, maybe we should consider having that position open in case we have that. Because once it reaches that point, we don't have a teacher prepared, then we're way behind the 8 ball. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Item 15, board request for information.
I just have a request. We're in a 4-day work week, is that correct?
Mrs. Cronin.
Okay. And what are the hours that the administrators or the employees work on a 4-day work week?
They still work 40 hours a week, or they have an option to take a vacation day on Friday if they have enough vacation, and then they work 8 hours. So it's either 4 10-hour days with no vacation day on Friday, or it's 4 8-hour days and then you're required to take a vacation day on Friday.
And it's not a common starting time, they can put those 10 hours in at any time?
No, they work that out with their supervisors.
The district administration really is still open 7 to 5 o'clock.
Okay, so what I'm asking, in other words, if I'm a building principal, must I be in at 7, must I be in at 8, must I... As long as you're working 10 hours, you come in at 5?
As long as you're working with your supervisor, and your supervisor is approving that.
And when did that 4-day work week start? What's the date that we started that?
3 or 4 years ago, I'm sorry. You mean this year?
Yes.
Today. Sorry, today.
So today, okay, so it didn't start today. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Through August 3rd. Okay.
Typically, in the past, that savings around $50,000.
Correct.
Item 16, motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
And future dates are listed.